It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was the right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized in this. Get right on it, Chief.
Captain Skinner, but Bubba's my name. I like my iced tea sweet and my women the same. I'm your brown-haired badge here in little old Sparta, but nobody's bigger or tougher or smarter. If you're looking to fight, best not be with me. Gonna be held tight, well now we'll just see. You never know in the heat of the night on TNT. Heat of the night on TNT. Now I don't put on any airs, but then I ain't no slob. Just a redneck boy with a blue-collar job. The ladies I date, they gonna have some fun, cause I'm a big hunk of crime-fighting son of a gun. So if you're looking to fight, come on up in the ring. You wanna be held tight, just about anything. And it happen in the heat of the night on TNT. Hubba, 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 hubba. Heat of the night on TNT. Yeah.
Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody's grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at last!
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome to Alan Autry. No retreat. We never retreat from the basic principles this country is founded upon. Love of country, family, and freedom. It's those aren't passing fads, are they, Sir Lawrence of Powell? Join us today.
Not at all.
Not
I'll
at
tell
all.
you what, and they're foundational in a lot of ways to a successful family, country, nation. It's just amazing.
Well, mention that. Some people think in just a couple of weeks now, in the midterms, that those values will be on the ballot, whether you accept those principles, God, family, country, are just words to be uttered, and in some cases, words to be canceled.
Yeah,
that's. I want Walter Brennan there again. Yeah, said it again. But I've asked this question the last few shows because I like to deep dive a little bit on things, so I don't get inculcated, like you say. You don't want to become inculcated on things. You hear things over and over and over again. You addicted CNN viewers and Fox viewers. You got to ask questions. And the question that I've laid out there, is that a true analysis? Are these midterms, both sides, Republican, Democrat, CNN, Fox, are saying this is clearly, if not the most important election in the history of our country in terms of direction where it's going to go since the Civil War, since Lincoln's second. Or is it an exaggeration? I'd like to tap into your wisdom. What side of the coin do you come down?
Interestingly enough, I think it's both. And it depends on your point of view and how you come at this. I think it has a tremendous impact on families, on traditional values, on those kinds of things. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of elections that the anticipated outcome wasn't what we thought it would be, but the people who got elected actually ended up making some good choices. So I think there's been a push real hard to the middle. I talk about this all the time. There's been a push to the middle. And I think that we're going to find people that are the far left, the far right are going to have less success in this election. I think the right is going to win, but then that's given. Anytime you have midterms, you always see a shift of some kind. The question will be, will this be a C shift? Will this be one that turns two houses in the opposite direction? Is this one that moderates everything? Just get one house, you kill all legislation for the next 2 years. You get two houses, you got a shot at changing some things. So who knows? I mean, it's a coin flip right now. I don't know that we can call it, on switching houses,
Yeah, my thoughts are, I understand what you're saying, and I share it to a certain extent. But I don't think the old trends, the past predictions in terms of political outcomes really apply today. I think this is an outlier election because I just don't think we've faced the issues in our lifetime. When you do a little study, I think since the inception of this country, where you had an ideology emerge, very powerful, very well funded, that has entrenched itself in our education system, corporate America, and that is an ideology that challenges pretty much everything that you would describe as traditional American.
That's founded from the nation,
from the family to law and order. I mean, you have an ideology, this woke movement, which amazingly has tremendous traction, that it is somehow hateful and gender prejudiced if you call your mother a mother, your father a father, that you're a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, you have an aunt or uncle, all those things.
Pronouns.
You're a pronoun. You're a her, a his, a him, a they. I mean, you can be plural. You can be more than one person. So all of this stuff that brings cognitive dissonance, just things you can. And then you look at historically, this country was based on law and order. If you don't have law and order, you got the big C. And I'm talking about chaos, not cancer, but the chaos grows like cancer.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't put lawbreakers, especially violent lawbreakers, you have to pick a side. And you got to pick the side on the law of the law-abiding people.
We've been picking the wrong side.
We've been picking the wrong, well, the people that are being elected. You trace it back, George Soros, who literally wants to see this country burnt to the ground, and start all over. And you look at the education system with the CRT. Never in our lifetime. Back in the day, prior to the Civil War, and then during the Jim Crow times, you had kids being brought up in the schools. Hey, we're different. If you're white, black, there's a difference. Well, we settled that in the courts. It's still, remnants of that around all over the country. In all races, prejudice is going to be there, but not to the extent at all to where there was a unanimity that was bad, that you judge somebody simply on their characteristics by the color of their skin. Now you have in our school system kids being taught simply by the color of your skin, you're either a oppressor if you're white, and you're oppressed if you're black. And if you don't see color, if you subscribe to Martin Luther King's colorblind society, you're a racist.
Right.
You have inflation. You have the president of the United States and the vice president and over half of Congress, basically up to just recently, a few weeks before the midterm, was saying inflation's no problem. They start off saying inflation doesn't exist. Then inflation is good. They pull a Mike Douglas in Wall Street. Greed is good. Inflation is good.
Yeah.
And then you say that you don't need a border when no country in the rest of the world exists with no borders, because you're not a country unless you have borders. So that's on the ballot.
Yeah.
And it's never, and the problem is, I feel if the Democrats, if they're able to keep the Senate and they're able to just do better than they hope for in the House, say they don't take the House, they're going to be emboldened, like our governor here was emboldened when he beat the roll call, the recall, Governor Newsom. We were hoping he would say, well, you know what? I need to take a look at these grievances.
Yeah.
Instead, he just saw it as a bunch of, Trump fanatics, MAGA people that got a beat down, and saw it as a confirmation of all of his woke left policies. My fear is if the Democrats win, they will see it as the go-ahead. They will see America saying, just keep spending. You put $6 trillion of phony money in there. Nobody can afford to buy eggs anymore or put gas in their car.
Right.
But hey, they're on our side. Let's just keep doing the same. Do you have any fear of that happening? Because I think it's clear cut. And I'm an independent. I know I say that, but I am.
Yep.
And I can't see, if you love America, and I mean America's perfect. If you think this of having personal freedoms, and you should have a right to pursue opportunity, education, quality of life in a free way, and have a chance at the American dream, then how in the world can you vote to keep doing these same policies?
Well, when you lose your mind, it's not hard to get pushed one way or another pretty easily. And by that, I mean this. You need to know who you are, what you believe, and why you believe it. If you don't, you will be like the book of James says, the wind tosses the wave to and fro. You can be pushed one way and another, and you don't really have a center. And we have so many people who, for whatever reason of disaffection with it, not interested anymore, don't like the outcomes, but don't want to do anything about it, or feel helpless. That's kind of where we are right now. I think this election is going to decide a couple of things. One in particular is, do we want to still be America? I think that's the number one thing that it's going to decide. So from your point of view, how important is it? Okay, it's really important. Do the ideals that we came up with,
the Constitution,
do those still matter?
Personal freedoms.
And I think that's going to be a big part of this.
Yeah, you've got this, and you're seeing the left exchange personal rights that are guaranteed by our Constitution, individual rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right to free speech, right to worship. All those individual rights the founders knew were necessary to have a free democracy, to group identity rights.
Well,
you're part of a group.
Group think.
This group think. You're either you're for the LGBTQ community, you're in or you're out. You believe that big government is the answer and the only answer. You're either in or out. We don't want to discuss it. No critical thinking on this stuff. And it's a perfect segue into, I'm going to say something, and well, I'm going to tell you to stop editing things in my mind. I try to be judicious. I try to be diplomatic. I'll always try to do that. But I'm not going to get paralysis of analysis on whether I should say something I deeply believe. I'm going to say it right now, and I know this. And it's just based on what you just said about being educated a little bit on the issues, educated on the people that are running. You hear everybody out saying, "Go vote, vote. Make sure you vote." I'm gonna look in the camera right now, saying, if you haven't done just a minimal of homework, if you don't know who these candidates are. Larry says you don't really know what you believe. Don't vote. Don't vote. It's too important. It's not something that you just, well, I'm going to go through the voter pamphlet. That name sounds good. Or I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm just going to vote Democrat. Or I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm just going to vote Republican. No. Study these issues of what's going on. Educate yourself. I mean, the founding fathers thought, well, back in the days of the Greek philosophers, and I don't subscribe to this, but they did have a point that you had to be educated. You had to have some enlightenment on the issues there before you could be a leader or run for office. And shouldn't that be true today? Shouldn't you open up these leaders and say, let me ask you a few questions about where you want to lead this country? What are your values? And study this individual's history, if they say what they mean and mean what they say, or are they just saying something to get elected? You see all of these Democrats now that are, they're for law and order. You see Ryan up in Ohio against J.D. Vance. Oh, gosh, I'm these government giveaways. I was against the Biden's bill. Voted with him 100% of the time. Become an election, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I would say unless you, and what's happened, and I got to take my hat off, people like Stacey Abrams. She made an effort to go out and harvest ill-informed and non-informed voters. One of the biggest fertile fields, and I'm going to say it, and I know this is going to get me in trouble, was the apartment complexes. I lived in Georgia for 7 years. I know where she went. And it's sadly apartment complexes where people are just trying to stay alive. You got people hooked on drugs. You got people that are all they have known for generations is welfare. They don't know that there's an ideology out there that wants to help them get off of welfare and get a job and break that cycle. They don't know. But what happens, somebody knocks on the door and said, you plan on voting? No. Well, here's this pamphlet. If you vote, and they have a bag full of groceries. They said, if you'll vote this way. Now, they're not in a voting line, so it's not altering. You can't go to the voting line and do that. But you can go out before the election and legally, and that's what she did. She engaged whole thousands and thousands, her team, and this happened all over the country, of ill-informed people that was able to buy their vote. And here's the tragic thing. Most of the time, those policies that they voted for and the people they voted for were behind policies that was hurtful to them, that did not let them have a pathway out of poverty. Just these little minimal giveaways that keep you dependent on government. And that's the tragic thing. You think, here's a bag of groceries, and you think about the people that would do that, the ideology that would do that. You got to blame the Republicans. You can curse the darkness or turn on the light. You better be knocking on that same door and telling that person, look, let me show you how we're going to work with our policies to get you out of poverty, have a job, and not just work for the man and the woman. You'll be able to be the man and the woman. You get your kids in school, finish school, and all this stuff. Well, what do you think about my career just being destroyed in Hollywood?
Well, I think you're correct, but it goes
well,
back.
I'm off a Tulsa King like that, huh?
It goes back to what de Tocqueville, and I've mentioned this time and time again, but he said democracy is great until the people realize that they can vote people in who will give them money. And this was back in the 1800s, so, and earlier. So democracy is really wonderful, but when you stop learning about the candidate, you stop learning about the issues, those kinds of things, then you end up with democracy not really being democracy because it's been pushed off one side and not centered anymore. Democracy is right in the middle. I talk about this all the time. But democracy is always in the middle, where I can be friends with someone who's a little bit on the right and a little bit on the left. I can't. It's harder when you're way out on both ends, because both ends exclude people. That's the problem with it. But in the middle, we include each other, and we work with each other, and we have hearts for each other, and we do things like that. As soon as I start thinking my position is more important than my relationship with anybody around, I think I've diminished the other person. I can't go that route.
And here's the key point, I feel. The woke left that's pushing this Marxist agenda, in that ideology, in that system, there is no middle.
No.
There's no middle class, because that denotes people of different backgrounds working together in the middle. There is the bourgeoisie, who they claim to want to get rid of, but
they
the,
are.
the most elitist people in the world are leaders in a communist country.
Yeah.
The richest person in the world is Vladimir Putin. He made his gazillions during communism and just enhanced it during the free market system. He had his money. And understanding how dangerous it is to embrace that ideology, that government can create institutions. See, that's what they think. This is what Thomas Sowell talks about, the conflict of visions, the constrained vision and the unconstrained vision. There was two revolutions basically going on at the same time. French Revolution, United States Revolution. The United States Revolution was led by people that believed in the constrained vision, which meant that they believed people were inherently flawed, do good things, but they're inherently flawed. So the best you could hope for is create institutions that could put restraints on those flaws, the tendency for governments to want to dominate people, to rule people, to have institutions that could constrain that. That's where you had the separation of powers, that they could separate that power, that it would be tough for one person to come in and run roughshod over the democracy because of the separation of powers, judiciary, legislative, and president. The French Revolution, on the other hand, embraced the unconstrained. And this guy, Condorcet, was a great philosopher back then, and he looked over at what was going across the pond there and said to himself, a very, very smart man, could never understand the separation of powers. His deal was and many in that revolution, was if you just created the right institutions,
right,
and you get the right people involved, you could create utopia. There would be no problems. The problems that were plaguing mankind would go away.
They called it a benevolent dictatorship.
Yes, but they believe man was innately good. We're not born sinful. They're just innately good. Just get the right institutions and the right people. And ironically, he was so inculcated in him that he found himself in prison, arbitrarily thrown in prison, in his writing, still not understanding the American system of the separation of powers. And what's ironic is if he did support that, he wouldn't have been in prison. He wouldn't have been rotting away in prison, because they just arbitrarily, this powers that be, threw him in prison.
Yeah.
So it's we're seeing, I believe, a battle of those conflicts of vision. You see with the Democratic left, the unconstrained vision. You vote for us. Just vote for us and your problems will be over. You put us in charge of an education system. You put us in charge, the military, put us in charge of all the big business. Let us control high tech, all of that. We'll create the institutions. We'll put the right people, and you will have no problems. This will be utopia. And
hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened.
And it's not going to.
And what else is on the ballot is, look, you see these things, the inflation going wild, and you have your leader saying, don't worry about it. I believe that it's, I think it's the most important election of my lifetime.
But when you deny reality and your leaders deny reality, you can fuse the people on a really high plane. And that's the problem with all of this. You're taught to believe your leaders, Republican, Democrat, whoever it is. You're taught to at least give them some level of credibility. But when they flat out lie to you and do it over and over and over, the trust level just is shot.
Does that matter anymore?
I think it does.
The populace become so jaded. I mean, you hear it all the time, Larry.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody lies. They're all liars. You just pick the best of the liars.
That's right. But I think the key here is going to be turnout. Turnout's going to impact this election in a way that I don't think any election has ever been impacted.
I agree.
So to me, it's what vision of America do you want? And if you don't go vote, you're going to get one you don't want. That's my opinion. You know, I think most people want America to stay America. America to be, you know, that beacon of democracy, that beacon of hope, that beacon of light. I want it to be that. Even no matter where you are on the political spectrum, I think people really do want that. But if you don't vote, you're going to get some form of dictatorship or benevolence that I can do it better for you.
But what if you buy the BS?
You know,
you have to educate yourself, aren't you? I mean,
absolutely.
you're a big proponent of this, and I am too.
Absolutely.
Do your own research. Don't blindly be a sheeple to either one of these parties.
No, I agree.
And that's what's happened. You get who can turn out the most sheeple. You know, it's. Let me ask you something. We'll go to break after this. I think the tolerance for lying, sadly, in this country, has way up. It's gone way up. And I was thinking the other day, and I'm just picking this example. Trump lover, like some policies he put in place, like some of the policies that Clinton put in place. It's gracious. When you say somebody does something good, and all of a sudden now they just paint you as this closed-minded wacko. But I was thinking, when Nixon was forced to resign because he lied about knowing about these misfits that he didn't sanction, by the way. They broke into the Democratic National Headquarters to steal some information for a campaign. Bad stuff, but he went there to get some papers, try to get the edge on the Democratic Party. I forget who was running against him at that time. But when it came back to him, he didn't come clean. And when he left office, it was a bipartisan feeling and belief that he had to go because he lied to the American people. If
that doesn't count anymore.
If you would have had somebody during the campaign, Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Trump, say somebody, a group broke into Trump's hotel to steal some stuff that the potential orange dictator would have. And Clinton said, I didn't know anything about it. And you found out that she did. Do you think there would even be any kind of, accountability? I mean, I don't even see that there would be they would justify it because he's the orange man. He deserves. You can do this.
Yeah.
This crime is acceptable if you're committing the crime against somebody I don't support, and that's a dangerous place to be.
We've already seen you can lie and call people names, and it doesn't matter. Hillary, the despicable.
Or you can break the law.
Yeah.
Names is one thing, but they're excusing politicians on each side, both political parties, the Democrats more so, but the Republicans, you better watch it. When somebody breaks the law and you're holding up Trump, well, now look what Trump did. Hey, if he is convicted in a court of law breaking the law, but then you dismiss out of hand as Russian propaganda all of the emails about the big guy using illegally, Hunter Biden illegally using his office to take money all over the country and from enemies of this country. And the latest thing is a $3 million interest-free loan from the mayor of Moscow. And you see these kind of crimes, and it looks like the DOJ, the FBI are going to prosecute him on these things. You have people on the left thinking it's nothing. Because why? Because he's on their team. Yeah. If you're on the team, we will back you up. Yeah. You're on the Democratic team, no matter what you do. Done. And that's a danger. That has not been the American way, as you talk about the middle. There was always enough in the middle to say, look, this is not tolerated in either party. Yeah. I know I'm a Republican. That individual's Republican, Nixon, but he's got to go. That's basically what happened. Mm-hmm. And you have over here Clinton looking into the camera and saying, lying in a deposition. And there was quite a bit of it wasn't unanimity, but you had a lot of Democrats that said that's too far. You lied. You broke the law. You lied to Congress. You lied in a deposition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they went through the impeachment process with him. So, but I don't think that's alive and well. I think it's anything.
The values we held politicians to in the past are no longer the same ones.
No.
You know,
And it's scary.
it's
Then
one thing. Do I agree with what you say? If I do, you're a good guy no matter what you do. That's sad.
even if what you say is not what you do. Because you got all these.
You got to get elected.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the position that they take.
And you see people.
You remember the old joke? How do you know a politician's lying? His lips are moving.
His lips are moving.
Okay. And that's become a thing that a lot of people have. And there's no holding people accountable at the level we used to, so you can allow anybody to be in there. And so ethics, character, all of those things don't carry the same weight they used to.
And exactly, and what really is worrisome to me, because I don't know how you turn this thing around. When you can do and say what Nancy Pelosi said about the very thing you just said about during the election, you say these things you know, number one, you don't believe, number two, that you're not going to do, but you literally promise the American people that you're going to do them. And she was asked about this reversal, this 180, this flip-flop, I forget what the issue was. And to her credit, but it gave me chills down my spine, she said, well, in a campaign, you say whatever you're going to say. It's a campaign. You say whatever. Back in the day, not too long, that would be grounds for losing your job as a speaker.
Absolutely.
There was nothing from the press. Nothing. I mean, Walter Cronkite was a liberal, you find out later. But dad gum, I'll take that liberal any day in the media. Walter Cronkite wouldn't have stood for that.
No.
He would not have stood for that. Huntley Brinkley would not stood for that.
You have to have values to be able to stand for something.
Well, but wait a minute, the brazenness.
They don't have them.
But to think so little of the American people, to think that people, we know that you don't care if we lie, if you're a Democrat or if we don't care at all. We know that you don't care. It's the ends justify the means. It's a no-holds-barred arena now. There's no such thing as virtues and ethics. Those are for losers. And the dirtier you play and the more dishonest you are, the better politician you are, and the quicker you're going to make your way up in both parties. Man, that's a sad, dangerous, ugly place to be in a country. Isn't that a precursor? Am I being overly dramatic? I know I come from a movie background when I say this, but do you really think I'm being overly dramatic when I say we're at a point now, it is truly the tipping point. If we don't rediscover our soul as a country, and we don't those things, God, family, country, integrity, having virtues as a candidate, demanding that you have the ability to work with the other party. We used to call it bipartisan, reaching across the aisle. You reach across the aisle now as a member party. Oh man, you bring back a bloody stub. It's the kiss of death.
Well, my best example is Obama. Choose your own doctor.
There you go, knowing full well
that was not the case,
and he knew full well
Absolutely.
That was a flat out lie.
Yeah.
Now they contrast that. I'm gonna contrast that, and I'm open to criticisms of my so-called people I look up to in politics. People know me. I look up to Reagan. Reagan, during the Iran-Contra thing, when Oliver North was sending weapons over there, they kept him in the dark. Okay, but when he found out that did happen, he went before the American people and said, this happened. I didn't know at the time, but I'm fully responsible for it. And I'm going to take action. Where is that kind of leadership?
Non-existent.
I mean, my goodness, you have a president with a war going in Ukraine, with inflation at 42-year highs, crime out of control, droughts all over the country. You have the everything in absolute
or drinking
chaos,
water.
drinking water. Yet all of these crises, and you choose to talk to the media while you're licking on an ice cream, and like you don't care about it, and you're asked about, do you care about inflation? And he says, the dollar, I'm holding this. This is supposed to be the ice cream, by the way. And you take a lick of the ice cream, and you said, no, I'm not worried about the dollar. I'm worried about the world. You know what I mean by that? That's what our president just said. First of all, don't play games. What did you mean by that? You just told a group of donors that you think there could be nuclear war. Is that what you're talking about? Don't sit there and play those stupid little games where you're eating an ice cream cone. Yeah, son, and I went Walter Brennan again. But dadgummit, these politicians, Larry. No, I mean, do you have the sense God gave a mule? And you're sitting up there playing. It's just so out of hand. And we'll go to break here. But when we come back, I want you to read what you read to me about these giveaways. One of the things this country is descending into is the worshiping of the giveaway. Free money, free stuff. And somehow that makes for a great country. Oh, my goodness. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat with Sir Lawrence of Powell. We'll be right back. Hey, Facebook family. Thank you so much. We were off about 3 or 4 days, I think, Jeremy. 2, 3 days. Yeah. We weren't on the air, so I didn't know. We came back on yesterday. And my goodness, our viewership was great. You guys had more shares, I think.
They hung in there, didn't they?
Boy, I tell you. So I'm going to ask you if you can do this, because we got to grow our army here. We don't expect everybody to think exactly the same at all. But those basic values, God, family, country, that's a broad tint. And again, you don't even have to believe those values to be a part of the Army. Just bring your argument. Bring your position, and we'll discuss it without the argument. But one of the basic principles of Autry's Army is this. You have to work together. You can't, we got to hold our elected officials as one fundamental. I think we can all get behind this, whether you're big government, small government, you're for right to life, pro-choice, whatever. If you believe that this country, our representatives, must work together, that they do not reserve the right to get mad, go home, and take their toys and go home. We've never had that in this country. You've got to stay together and work things out and talk. That is one of the basic foundational principles of Autry's Army. That's what I stand for. You gotta stay at the table. Our founding fathers fought like cats and dogs. They called each other's name, but they had to get a country together because they were at war. And when they so-called won that war, they knew the British were coming back. They knew they were going to try again. And if they didn't put their differences aside and have some fundamental things they agreed upon, and one of those is, we may have come over here on different boats, but we're in the same boat now. So if we want to survive, we've got to stay together, work together, and come to compromises. You know, it's like Thomas Sowell said. It says, there's no wins or victories. They're just trade-offs. Now, it doesn't mean you trade off your basic principles, but in politics, you're going to have, and Ronald Reagan said best, if I get 60% of what I want. Exactly.
1 minute?
Like me, I'll put it on the table right now. I believe in inception. Life begins at conception. That's just me. But would I support a compromise that around the country at 5 months? Would I say that it's good that these states are coming to that conclusion? Yes. You know, you look at Kansas, everybody, not going to be any abortion. Well, Kansas, which is one of the most conservative states in the country, voted to keep abortion in their constitution. That's where it should be with the states. So you're seeing these kind of these discussions on very sensitive subjects not only happen now because that's Supreme Court. They're starting to come to some compromises and some trade-offs. And that's good. I think.
10 seconds.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now. 559-899-1550.
Hey, welcome back to Big Wednesday here with Larry Powell and you all that have tuned in. Again, thank you all for tuning in. It means the world to me. I'm having just a time of my life doing this show. What a blessing it is to be here pretty much every day from 12 to 1 here in Pacific Coast time to be with you. And I have to repeat it before I turn over to Larry to share something with you that he shared with me before the show began. From the good book that I think really profound and I think you'll find interesting. But I want to reiterate, if you haven't done a minimal of thought, study about what's going on with this election coming up in midterms, if you're completely in the dark for whatever reason, I would urge you, because you have time, to do some research. Go online, call friends on the issues that are at hand, about the border, about crime, about inflation. You don't have to get a PhD in economics to understand what's going on. Just you go online, simple explanations for the basic things that will give you an understanding about how inflation is created and how you have to defeat it, and so on and so forth on most of the issues that are out there. Do that minimal research. But if you are in the dark and you're just voting because somebody else, well, hey, you need to vote for this individual, don't vote. Don't vote. Don't do it. I know I'm a voice. It's everywhere. The NBA, vote, vote, vote. No. Don't do that. That's like going out and playing with a loaded gun that you have no training with. It can not only hurt you, but people around you. If you don't know what the trigger is. Oh, what's this? Boom, you're minus a head. And by the way, you hit the guy next to you. That's how dangerous your vote can be. These Senate races, these congressional races, some of them are going to be razor thin. It could be a few hundred votes. Remember the hanging Chad, Larry?
Oh, yeah.
The presidential election? So I believe this country better off. You're better off because I have made ill-informed decisions on votes.
We all have.
And I tell you, it's not a good feeling to throw your hands up and go, what? Who would vote for that? And have somebody look at you and go, you did. Real quick, I hear you. I'll real quick story. And then I want you to share with the folks what you shared with me before. When I first got elected, I went to see Willie Brown and Jerry Brown. Willie was the mayor of Oakland, of San Francisco at the time. Jerry Brown, mayor of Oakland. Just want to get about, pick some, and I went Republicans, San Diego mayor. I want to just pick their brains about some tips, being in office, and things of value. And Jerry Brown spent a lot of time with me. And he told me of when he first got into office, he wanted to see the park system there. So he got in the system, driving him around, and he saw this park here, and he says, well, why is this park that homeless center? I mean, we have to have a place for them. Went and saw that the parks are only a certain time of day. A lot of issues with the parks that he saw. And then finally he said, who's responsible for this? And the guy looked at him and says, you are mayor. When you were governor, you signed all these laws in existence. He said, I had no idea. Alan, I had no idea. And so maybe it makes a little more sense when I say, don't vote because you can do more harm than good by doing your civic duty if that civic duty is ill-informed, because part of your civic duty is not just to vote, it's to be informed when you vote. Larry,
very much.
We were talking about Governor Newsom handing out all this free money, folks. If you haven't heard around the country, he has this basic income theory that kind of started in Stockton with the mayor who's no longer there. You got another mayor there going, hey, everybody deserves $1,000 a month. They can do whatever they want to. When you ask them, well, okay, who gets that? Oh, we pick those. What's the criteria for getting it? Oh, we'll figure that out.
Where's it come from?
Where's it coming from? Well, Governor Newsom's doing that. And Larry, take it away because, free things sound good. They do really do.
Yeah.
Something free. But, you just don't value it. And it's probably free stuff is probably this side of heroin one of the most addictive things you can participate in.
Well, it certainly changes you because incentive is gone. Why work? Money's coming in. But, out of Proverbs 6 in the Bible, it says real simply, "You lazy fool, look at an ant. Watch it closely. Let it teach you a thing or two. Nobody has to tell it what to do. All summer it stores up food. At harvest, it stockpiles provisions. So how long are you going to laze around doing nothing? How long before you get out of bed? A nap here, a nap there, a day off here, a day off there? Sit back, take it easy. You know what comes next? Just this. You can look forward to a dirt poor life, poverty, your permanent house guest." That's there's a lot to be said for that. You give me
it's
enough.
Called truth.
Yeah, you give me enough so I don't have to do anything. And I start atrophying. I start getting smaller. My muscles start decaying. I stop being healthy. All the things that the ant has, which is that ability to go, 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 is gone when people just get. And it just, it's absolutely terrible. And then the next section of Proverbs 6, verse 12 says this: "Swindlers and scoundrels talk out of both sides of their mouths. They wink at each other. They shuffle their feet. They cross their fingers behind their backs. Their perverse minds are always cooking up something nasty, always stirring up trouble. Catastrophe is just around the corner for them, a total wreck. Their lives ruined beyond repair." Boy, I'll tell you what, it's coming.
There's no saying the truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable.
It's going to hurt.
That's the miserable truth.
It is. It is.
And it's been throughout mankind. That's what Soul was talking about. The innate nature of us. Our innate nature is not to pick the path of most resistance.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
what's the easiest route here, baby?
And God knew that. Adam and Eve had it all. They didn't have to work. They didn't have to, yet they became disobedient. And then the rest, Cain slew Abel, and the rest is history. But it's so hard to convince young people. Excuse me. And what happens is this entitlement to free stuff, in addition to killing your work ethic, it lowers your requirement. And some may think this is good, but I don't believe this. It requires your bar to be happy. And people say, well, things don't make. I get all that, but it's lowered. It's not like you lower the bar to be happy, and then you go out and work to support you and your family, and because of, like my dad, he had a third grade education. He got to the point where he couldn't go back and go get educated, get that. He had to, work through life. And he set a great example on what a work ethic can do. And I had the best dad in the world, topped out at $265 an hour. But he was the first one to say, I wish I could have been able to do more, because he was a smart man.
Yep.
And he wanted to do more. He wanted to work more. He wanted to provide more for the family. You're having a mindset now, and people out there know what I'm talking about. You're getting kids living at home that are just happy to live off mom, dad, and grandma and grandpa, and they're okay with that.
It started when you let them stay home to 26 and be covered by health insurance.
Exactly.
Stop that independence, that ability to go out and become the person you're capable of becoming.
And isn't that one of the greatest gifts you can give? And we look in our society, we want to take from our kids the experience and the opportunities that we draw on every day for our strength. To go out and do something that you don't want to do when you least want to do it. I didn't when I was 14 years old, when I had to get up during the summer, at 6 a.m. and go pick apricots out with my Aunt Zoo. Mm-hmm. But I look back on that, and gosh, that's helped me, because in life, to be successful in life, is having to do sometimes, and many times, depending on seasons in your life you go through, of doing what you least want to do when you least want to do it, and do it with energy and vigor and enthusiasm. And if you can't, you fake it till you make it. You just keep going. And you see this whole spirit of just keep going, just keep working, being sapped. You know, the video games, the webcam, these things right here, these cell phone things. I mean, there's enough distraction now.
There is.
And then you see a party. I'm sorry, I've got to single out this woke movement that's saying to all these young people, keep going, keep doing it. We got more free stuff coming. These dastardly Republicans and independents that want to make you work for what for the money you get. Yeah, try that concept on for size. Those evil dudes and dudettes. I'm sorry, evil gender neutral cisgenders out there trying to make you work.
They, them.
For the money you get. What a horrible concept. And I tell you, a lot of young people are buying it.
They are. Yeah. You know, it's a sad state of affairs when you see a student who is capable and chooses not to take advantage of the God-given ability that they've worked on, been given or earned, whatever it is. Remember the 7th grade student who came to me at one time and said, my mom gets a check, when do I get my check?
Yeah.
That's 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, what are you talking about? I said, well, mom gets a check, when do I get mine?
Mm-hmm.
7th grade, you've already got such a disincentive to become anything. And yet we know that self-worth and value comes from hard work. It's an incredibly important part of it. I tuck turkeys for Dad. There are 26,000 turkeys a day came through this plant, and every 4th bird I lifted off of that shackle and put those legs in under that strap to get that butterball look.
Yeah.
That's a lot of turkeys.
Well, I look forward, down the line 30 years from now, and teaching kids about what happened. And I said, well, little Johnny, little Jane, whatever they'll be called by that time. There was 2 words that destroyed this country. That was stimulus check. It all started with that. Sounded good, but it was like poison. Hey, let's go to Lane. We got time for Lane Hope's on the line. Are you still there, Lane?
Yes, I sure am.
Hey, you said you had a voting-based comment. First, thank you for calling. Got a few minutes. What's your thoughts on this voting-based comment I see in the notes there?
Well, I don't know how it is anywhere else but here in Alabama. These local elections, we have people who run for these local offices, but they don't get out here and tell who they are, what they stand for. All you see is their signs, Republican, Independent, Democrat. So what? I mean, that doesn't really mean anything too much. They don't get out here and they don't say what they're going to do to make things better, what they're going to do. And you don't really know who they are. You see their name on the voting ballot, but you don't know who they are or what they're going to do.
Exactly.
And I don't understand why that they don't do this. Why don't they make themselves known?
Yeah. I go down, Lane, I will go down a ballot. Well, Larry can attest. I'll call Larry up. I'll say, Larry, what do you think on this particular ballot measure, this particular individual? I'm doing my homework. He's not the only one I call. I will tell you, he has a weighted place in my life because I've seen his decision-making over the years, and he's very seldom wrong. Be the first one to admit he's been wrong about someone.
Been wrong
but I have, in my knowledge, very seldom. But I will call up, and if I can't get the information, especially right here on propositions, you have all of these initiatives. I don't know, Alabama, I don't think you have that. I don't know if you have the proposition process at all. I don't think you do, but I'm sure there's individual city initiatives that you vote on. But I after I voted on Proposition 98 funding and all of the hidden stuff to give half of this budget to education with no accountability, no measurement for success, I bought all that because I listened to ads going, this is pro-teacher, pro-kid, and this and that. And then I spent time as mayor trying to save this cities around the state because the Prop 98 things and stuff were so jumbled together, they were able literally, meaning the state government, steal from the local governments based on the technicalities in this initiative.
Yeah.
And I made a decision right.
County, we don't get to vote for mayor.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have a strong mayor format. Yeah, you get the city council thing. But I tell you, to this day, I see something, I don't know enough about it, I will not vote. I will not vote on it.
I
And
can't vote on it because if it's not something that's good, I don't want to be partially responsible for putting it through, and it's not for everybody's well-being.
yeah,
I don't want to be part of that.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying here about this midterms. You don't know who these people are, and you don't, I really am not interested in anything somebody says.
That's right.
No, I'm serious. I almost tune it out. I want to look at what they've done.
Yeah.
I want to see what you've done in the past, because it's saying that the history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. If you say you're for pro-growth and creating jobs and you're pro-business, and you look where you've been everything but that, you just laid regulation on small businesses, causing business to go out of business, and then 3 weeks before the election, you're saying I'm pro-business and I'm going to do this, and this for business. I'm not going to listen to that.
Right.
I'm going to do on what you've done.
If you don't know them well enough, if you've never heard of them, there's no past to look at.
Exactly. I.e. the example with Barack Obama, because here running for president, he had really done nothing but promote himself. Now, I'm not picking on him. He seems like a decent guy you'd want to hang out with and have fun with. He seems like a guy. But there was nothing there that he had accomplished other than organizing grievances. To say that he was remotely ready for the president. Or say, well, how about Trump? Well, like Trump or hate Trump, pro-business, anti-business, he had run a business. He had international experience with world leaders for decades. If you just looked at it, took the orange hair out of it and the tweets out of it, and just looked at the name of the two, who would you vote for president? It would, if you cared about the country, it would be Trump.
Exactly.
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 Well, I appreciate you calling in, Lane. God bless you.
Will you do me a favor?
If I can. I'm not going to be one of those politicians and say yes before I know what it is.
Adores you. Her name is Tiana.
Okay.
We call her TT.
Okay.
Say hello, TT, so I can show her that.
Well, hey, TT. How you doing?
And she absolutely loves you.
Well, I love you. I appreciate you. And if you watched in the heat of the night, you help pay a lot of rent.
I'm going to have to send y'all a video sometimes of her arguing with me over who's Bubba and who's Guillermo y'all are.
Well, let me tell you, I'm not the better looking one of the bunch, so she should be able to, by the hair and the looks, to tell right off the bat. But thank you.
In her words, she says, you cute.
Well, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder, thank goodness. And thank goodness for charity. That's something free I will take. I'll take that free compliment right there. Oh, thank you so much. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
You still got it, Alan.
Oh, yeah. We don't know what that is, but I still got something. Yeah. Well, I tell you, folks, thank you for tuning in. And there's, right on cue. What
boy.
Nice seg.
Good timing.
Nice seg, as they say.
Yeah.
Nice segue. Sir Lawrence, thank you. Always come out of
pleasure being here.
Time with you, wiser and a better man. Folks, thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, especially on Facebook, please share it with folks. God bless you. God bless America. And just remember, do your best and let God do the rest. Turn out just the way it's supposed to.